Sean Combs, The Reckoning, on Netflix. What is the definition of The Reckoning? What is the definition? You hear the word reckoning, what do you think? For most people, and myself included going into this, I was thinking, all right, accountability. That's when, like, when stuff that you've done, when shit has gone down, and you just kind of went on by your life, when you caused that shit, and it was hurting people, that shit, that hurt you caused people is now finally caught up to you. You now have to be accountable for it. That's what I'm thinking when it comes to reckoning. You're reaping what you've sown. All right. Now, a lot of shit was done by Diddy or Puffy, whoever you want to call him, Sean Combs. All right, episode 1, I'm calling it The Origin of a Monster. What I'm calling it. I'm like a lot of people, I idolized Diddy when I was younger. But then other things came out. You didn't want to believe them. And then you're kind of forced to believe them. And now you have stories like this that come out. You have everything that came out the last couple of years. And now you've got this documentary. Definitely a monster. Origin of a monster. But the documentary gets into his origin story, like what happened with his family, broken home. But I don't think that's that unique. There's plenty of people out there who come from broken homes who don't turn into monsters. All right? Plenty of people. And he talked about his rough, abusive relationship with his mother and his lack of relationship with his father, and how the myth of his father being this gangster, and that the characters that he idolized watching on TV. Again, none of that is rare. Like, people do that all the time, and they don't turn into monsters. But I think the pain that was in him from that, and the confusion from that time, which is in a lot of people in those circumstances, you multiply that by his access early on into the music industry, which is filled with demons. I mean greed and jealousy and lust for power, sexual lust as well, deviancy, debauchery, all kinds of stuff, demons. And he had access into that and learning how to be manipulative early. Multiply that, and you multiply that by, I'm going to go with the white man. There was a white man in early in the documentary, in the docuseries, I guess you call it, who gave Diddy a bunch of money, a bunch of power, right? So you have all that pain and confusion. You multiply that by the music industry, demons, access. You multiply that by the money and the power that the white man gave him, and then you have your origin of a monster. Fact number 1, people, sometimes God loves us by not giving us what we want, or not giving us what we think we want. I think sometimes, had I gotten certain things in certain times of my life, I would have done some awful things in those situations. And Diddy gets all of this, and he turns into a monster. So just think about that. Certain people, you should probably be thankful that you didn't cross paths with them when they are a monster. There's probably a lot of people who probably dodged a bullet because they didn't end up crossing paths with Diddy. Episode 2 is pretty much about Biggie and Pac, their beef. And the documentary does a good job of setting up, look, they were friends at one point. And it's because of Diddy that there was this beef. And why? Why did Diddy do that? Why was all this end in tragedy? Which leads me to fact number 2, Diddy equals the devil. He's thought of and spoken of as a master manipulator throughout this whole docuseries. And those are the characteristics of the devil, or not, the father of lies, pulling all the strings, and that's Diddy. He's a monster. He is a manifestation of the devil. And I'm being figurative a bit, but really only a bit, people. Like, you watch the docuseries and you see just how manipulative he is. Diddy equals the devil. Episode 3 is pretty much about Cassie. And I kept thinking through this whole thing, man, she looks like Zendaya. If they ever did some sort of movie of this, Zendaya could easily play Cassie. You could have, maybe Michael B. Jordan play Diddy. I don't know. I don't know who would ever want to play that kind of character, but I think he'd do a good job. Anyway, you see this cycle of Diddy being a predator, going after what he wants, using his power and money in the industry to get what he wants, crossing the lines, all kinds of lines, hurting all kinds of people, leaving all kinds of destruction in his wake. And the cycle just continues and continues. You see him being able to use pretty much this kind of like this demonic force, I will call it. And I keep bringing that up because it's true, man. There's all the manipulative energy from Diddy. And look, again, I go back to the things that we desire and being happy that sometimes we didn't get those things. I take a look at Cassie, and definitely a victim here. I I'm just kind of being careful about how I'm coming across here. Definitely a victim here. But she wanted that lifestyle. She wanted to be around the power that could get her to her dreams. And a lot of artists are like this. A lot of entertainers are like this. And so they're willing to overlook a lot of abusive behavior, over a lot of evil behavior. They'll overlook it, or they'll allow it to happen to them because they want to be close to what can get them what they want, right? And so this abusiveness continues and continues and continues. And which leads me to fact number 3, people. Power is a hell of a drug, right? We see what power did to Diddy, turn him into a monster. Or really just allow him to be a monster and continue in that. And we see what power does to a lot of these victims. They allow it to happen to themselves because they're still drawn to that lifestyle. And then even when they want to get away, it's already had its impact on them, so they can't get away. We see the slave that all drugs can make you, and this drug in this case is power. Episode 4, we're dealing with the reckoning, quote unquote, the reckoning. And you look up the definition and you have judgment and accountability, sure, but you also have a definition of establish by counting or calculating. To establish something by counting or calculating. And I take a look at the jury, and they didn't believe a lot of this testimony. It seemed far-fetched to them. There wasn't a whole lot of evidence backing up what Diddy's actually being charged for. He's not being charged for domestic violence. He's not being charged for being evil manipulator. He's being charged for racketeering and trafficking charges. And there wasn't a lot of evidence in the midst of that. You add to the fact that Diddy's using his money, his power, his influence for PR, for like 8 some high-class lawyers to manipulate information. And so the counting and calculating for the quote-unquote reckoning gets skewed, and he ends up getting only a few years when he probably deserves a few decades. So it leads me to fact number 4, people. If you hold your breath for justice in the court systems, you're going to pass out, pretty much. All in all, it's a good doc. The stars of the doc, to me, is whoever leaked all this video footage, the point person for all the producers involved in this, and Diddy's own narcissism for always having to be recorded. It's a well-done docuseries, though. I was informative. It got to the point. Some people from Diddy's camp are calling it a hit piece. Can't be a hit piece if it's you yourself giving all the information. It's brought up a lot in the doc that he's not on trial for being a bad person, or a monster, as a lot would call him, as I would call him. But it should be. Being a monster should be illegal. I'm not talking about your Frankenstein-type monsters who are misunderstood. I'm talking about your Pennywise monsters who are definitely no good. They got to get up out of here. As far as the doc, it's a grade A. However, I would say that this monster is going to be out in a few years. And then what? What are we going to do then? People. It's rough, man. It's rough. I feel for those who have come out and leaked this information, people who have come out and spoken against Diddy, because he doesn't seem like the type of person, the type of monster that's going to let that go.